So most people out there actually need to use machines. They just don't know how. And the reason they need to use them is because it's probably going to be the flavor of exercise that works for their body. It's a unique force experience on the joints and muscles.
Welcome to the Exercise is Health podcast, where we're talking about exercise, health, and the interconnectedness of the two. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we will be coming to you every single week from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Exercise is Health podcast. We are your hosts, Charlie
and Julie,
and we are coming to you from our studio, Muscle Activation Schaumburg in Schaumburg, Illinois. Now, at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, we believe your health is your most valuable asset. Your health is one of the biggest influencers of the quality and quantity of time that you have. And while there are many aspects of health, our expertise is exercise. Exercise has been proven time and again to not only improve your health, but also increase your longevity and improve your quality of life. And if you are looking for a way to exercise from the convenience of your home while still receiving the kind of guidance that we give our clients here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, then you need to check out the MAS at-home workout program. This video-guided program is 75 days and includes over 100 workouts, from resistance training to cardio workouts to mobility workshops and even recovery days, to make sure your body stays feeling well and you can continue to exercise on a regular basis. So if this is of interest to you, being able to work out from the convenience of your home using minimal equipment, guided by myself and Julie, and doing it in under 20 minutes a day, then you need to head to homeworkout.matschaumburg.com to learn more and download your copy now. So today what we're talking about is an exercise-related topic, because exercise is massively important to maintain and improve the health and function of your body. And this one came up online. We were doing an internet search, and a question was posed of like, hey, what are some of your opinions of the fitness industry that kind of go against the grain of the fitness industry, that really aren't popular with the fitness industry? I thought, there could be some good conversations that we have with this. So that's what we're going to talk with you about today.
I thought this one would be fun because it's like an invite for us to tell you guys all the things we disagree with in the fitness industry. I think we spend a lot of time telling you guys about what we do believe, but we don't explicitly always say the things that we don't agree with or we don't believe in. And so I thought, sure, this one will be lots of fun. And, I think everyone's so overly exposed to the fitness industry just because of social media, and it's like one of those things that's like you can be like a social media fitness star, and so a lot of us, including people that aren't professionals in the fitness world, get a lot of information about fitness, and unfortunately a lot of wrong information is out there. And Charlie and I are going to share our views and why we think this or why we think that. And we always want to remind you that if something's working for you, then please keep doing that thing, because we are here to offer, some opposing viewpoints. And we do that to try to kind of open your eyes to like other stuff. And we never want to do that to discourage you, meaning you leave listening to this podcast or any of our other podcasts feeling like, wow, I must be just doing it wrong. And anyways, can I go ahead and start with my first one?
Please do, yeah.
We didn't talk about this one in the pre-notes, but this one I know we could probably talk 5 hours about. But I'd like to share with you that walking is not the best form of exercise.
I love it.
I know so many doctors that even say that.
Absolutely.
Now, let me tell you some pros of walking. Walking is probably one of the more convenient exercises. It has a low skill level, so almost everyone can do it. It's like you're already doing it most of the day, so you're just doing it a whole bunch more. And so because of those factors, I think that a lot of people feel like it's probably the best form of exercise. And also I think a lot of people enjoy it. Like, who doesn't enjoy getting outside, getting some fresh air, walking? It is a great exercise, but it's definitely not the best exercise in my opinion.
No, it's so true. And, we actually did an entire podcast episode on that one point. So we go into detail about why walking is not the best form of exercise in that episode. But I'll just say this. Look, there are, like Julie was saying, there are some really beneficial things of walking. The low skill level, most people can do it. It is uber convenient to do. And, from a prevention standpoint for things like insulin resistance, which leads to type 2 diabetes and heart disease, walking can be very beneficial and very useful for that. But in terms of improving your health beyond that, and I'm not trying to minimize that. That's a really important thing. Most of us don't even do that. But if you want to improve your health beyond that, when we're talking about improving your brain health, when we're talking about improving muscle function and talking about improving the health of your joints, actually improving your heart health, well, prevention of heart disease can come along through improving or preventing insulin resistance, but challenging your heart to a greater extent. Those things are all done through things that are not walking, that are done at a greater intensity than walking. And we've covered this ad nauseum in really, I feel like over the last 2 months, just kind of discussing all the more of the details about this. But yeah, I'm in full agreement with that. Walking is definitely not the best form of exercise.
And I think too, one of the things that Charlie and I specialize in is mechanics, and walking is definitely not one of the things that promotes healthy mechanics. And in fact, those types of repetitive motions, if you do have a joint issue, will probably get highlighted during these types of exercise. So if you have, fasciitis or a knee issue or hip stuff, it's very likely that these repetitive motions like walking, especially if you're only walking, will actually flare these things up.
Definitely. I'm going to throw out the idea that, one thing we definitely agree with here that's popular in the fitness industry is the idea that machines are bad. That's a big, I don't want to say a flag for us, but that's definitely like, okay, we got to talk more because I want to know where you're coming from that, because I strongly disagree.
And whenever people say machines are bad, usually it's linked with one of two things. The first one being because everything I need to do for my fitness, I can do at home. Or the second one being that they're not functional. And so when I do go to the gym, I only use something that I can climb on, like a jungle gym or some kind of free weight type thing.
Yeah, and the problem is look, there are benefits to working out at home. There are benefits to using free weights, but there are clearly benefits to using machines. It's just that, one, most people have absolutely no idea how to use machines. And two, if they do know how to use machines, then they end up, unfortunately, having machines that usually are not built the best to feel good, to be able to fit to the client's body and to be able to use for, any sustainable amount of time through a workout. And so because of that, a lot of machines in and of themselves kind of take themselves out of the equation because they are poorly built. But when you have well-built machines, oh my gosh, they are such valuable tools.
Yeah, if you go to like a big box gym, a place where you get a membership and there's lots of trainers, if you watch the trainers, the professionals in the field, they rarely use machines. So how can we expect like the lay people, like the people that consume exercise, do it, they're not like trying to do it as a career. How can we expect those people to know how to use machines? Because the professionals aren't getting trained on how to use machines. In fact, I have been exposed to many certification bodies, and very few of them actually teach trainers how to use machines, how to manipulate machines, how to keep machines working well, because if you know how one works, you know how to keep it working well. And so there's a huge issue there. I think there's just like also discomfort, that comes along with like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to use this tool, so why would I expose my client to it, which I totally get. But as Charlie said, there are huge, immense benefits to machines. Now, because a lot of trainers are so uneducated about how machines work, which I'm not sure if it's totally completely the trainer's fault, but I would hope that they eventually will explore the value of machines. But this also encourages, as Charlie was saying, machine manufacturers that they can make kind of cruddy looking, they look pretty, but they have a cruddy, what we call resistance profile to them. And so because we have an uneducated eye usually looking at them, then these machine manufacturers can keep making kind of crappy machines because people are buying them because they look pretty and not because of their functionality. And so there are immense benefits to using well working machines, which doesn't mean always the most pretty looking machines. For example, Charlie and I, our whole gym here at MAS is almost all secondhand, but it's because we want the certain type, and some aren't even made anymore. So it is actually difficult to find. But okay, so why are machines so great? Machines are really great because they can offer a force experience on your body that you cannot replicate at home or without a machine, like in the gym, but not on a machine. And why this is important? This is so important because do you know how many people don't exercise because it feels bad? Like 80% of the population. Well, I would say even more, because I would say in the 20% that actually exercise, some of them do it because they just love it so much, but it still doesn't feel good. Like, you know, the people that walk around injured and they love exercising. So anyways, so most people out there actually need to use machines. They just don't know how. And the reason they need to use them is because it's probably going to be the flavor of exercise that works for their body. It's a unique force experience on the joints and muscles.
Did I ever tell you about the comment that we got on our blog back in August?
No.
Okay, so I want to tell you about this. So, you know, we put out blog posts a couple times a week between our Two Man Tuesday videos and this podcast gets uploaded to our blog. And a lot of times we get comments and 97% of the time it's just spam. And so I end up going through and just, you know, it gets picked up in the spam filter, just delete them all. This one didn't get picked up by the spam filter, maybe should have, but ends up being highly entertaining. Okay. And by the way, I don't know if I've also told you this, Julie, but like one of the most viewed posts on our entire website is the 2 Minute Tuesdays we did about the hip ab and adduction machine.
Oh, really?
You remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it gets like hundreds of views, sometimes a day. It's pretty crazy. Okay. So back in August, we got this and I haven't approved it because it's just nonsense. Okay. So this is what the comment reads. It goes, "This is utter biomechanical pseudoscience. Training the hip with this machine is not necessary and can lead to ab adduction imbalances, which result in hip issues. Saying use it or lose it is misleading in this video, as plenty of free weight exercises will stimulate the muscles of hip, ab, and adduction. It's ridiculous how so many gyms try to market their overpriced and near pointless machines." And I just... reading it now, I find it hilarious, but that is I think the predominant viewpoint within the fitness industry, that it's, you know, you don't need machines. They're just big, expensive things that gyms try to promote. Okay, hello, like we are a small boutique studio, so
why would we spend thousands and thousands of dollars on these things?
Exactly. But the first sentence, this is utter biomechanical pseudoscience, and then one of the last sentences, there are plenty of free weight exercises that will stimulate the muscles of hip, ab, and adduction. So that in and of itself is highly contradictory, because there aren't plenty of free weight exercises that will stimulate the muscles of ab and adduction. There are a lot of free weight exercises that will incorporate the muscles of ab and adduction, but there are not many free weight exercises that will challenge the muscles of hip, ab, and adduction while they're ab or adducting.
Right.
And that's the difference.
Right. I think this is such a good point. Whenever I get a new client and we get on the ab and adduction machine, we go like pretty darn freaking light. And they're always like, well, this doesn't feel that difficult. Well, they always feel it the next day. Why? Because unless you've been on that machine, your ab and adductors have probably never been very directly stimulated. And that's the beauty of machines, is that you can really get good stimulation of muscle tissue. And as we've talked about in many, many podcasts, muscles contracting is one of the whole main goals of exercise. I had another really good example that would really shed some good light on this. Okay, so at home, or if you're not going to use machines, there are a couple ways that you could work your chest. And one of the very popular ways is like a push-up, right? And I don't know about you, but I actually struggle to do a push-up, like a regular push-up, like on my feet and hands. Like I can maybe do like maybe a 10 I could get done. And then I'm like pooped out for the rest of the whole workout. So what's nice is like if I sat myself on a machine, I could change the weight and actually get some reps done, do multiple sets, which is a really interesting like health thing to do. Versus with a push-up or other body weight exercises, you're kind of fixed to your body weight, or you're fixed to, like, let's say you're like, well, you could hold a dumbbell while you squat. That's a body weight exercise that you could add weight to. Well, you know, I have really strong legs and I don't know how strong my grippage is. So I could probably squat with 100 pounds, but I definitely couldn't hold 100 pounds with my hands. So there's definitely strong limitations, but also benefits to both machines, non-machines, body weight stuff, home exercises. We just have to respect the benefits and limitations of all of them.
I think another thing that often gets thrown out in regards to machines is the idea of, well, it doesn't work the stabilizers. Like, you don't have to stabilize when you're using machines. And I remember actually having, maybe it doesn't get thrown out, maybe it was only the argument that I used to have in my head as why I didn't like using machines. It's like, well, why would I do a chest press on a machine when it doesn't work the stabilizers? And and I laugh at it now, and I feel like I can, because that was a thought that I had. But the reality is one, you have to ask yourself, what do you want to get from the exercise? What's the goal of the exercise? Okay. And if your goal is to challenge your muscles to as great of a degree as you possibly can, well, guess what? You don't want to have to do a bunch of stuff where you're having to balance or you're having to coordinate a bunch of movement. You want to be able to kind of be locked into like a machine or something else stable and just focus on squeezing your muscles and just challenging your muscles. And when it comes to getting results from working out, that is directly related to the amount of challenge you provide your body during the workout. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is just the whole notion of stabilizers, which is a completely different rabbit hole. But the reality is stabilizers, as they're often thrown out, really don't exist. Every muscle has an ability to move a joint. Every muscle has the ability to stabilize a joint. So you can't say, well, it's not working the stabilizers when it's just working the movers, when muscles both move and stabilize. So if it has the ability to move a joint, if a muscle has an ability to move a joint, a muscle also has the ability to stabilize a joint. So if you are doing something that's challenging the ability for muscles to move a joint, then by nature, you're also challenging those same muscles that would help to stabilize that joint.
Yeah, nicely said. They're actually, every muscle does both. And so whenever you're doing exercises, you're really strengthening the ability for them to do both. So yeah, that is a funny one, but it does sound good. You know, like we should use machines because then you're not working stabilizers. Because I do think in the gym industry too, there's like some value placed on like, well, the more muscles you work at once, the better. Mm-hmm. And again, that could be cool, but there's also a lot of value to not doing that sometimes. So there's value to both.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, look, there's value in creating a scenario where your brain has to figure out how to coordinate different areas of your body and how to move certain areas and not move certain areas. There's value to that. But there's also value to getting your body to say, hey, I'm going to squeeze these muscles as hard as I can. I don't have to worry about all the other stuff. So if you can appreciate the one extreme of, you know, internally having to stabilize while also, you know, figuring out how to move, then I think you should also be able to appreciate the other extreme where you don't have to worry about trying to control stuff that you're not trying to challenge at that moment, control segments of your body you're not trying to challenge at that moment, and just focus on squeezing the muscles that you're trying to work during that exercise.
Yeah, so it all really boils down to what is the goal of that exercise and how does that fit into your program. Our next unpopular opinion is that to gain more range of motion or movement or flexibility, you must do more range of motion. If you've listened to our podcast at all, you're like, duh, of course you guys don't think that. But anyways, if you're new, this is one that we don't agree with. So usually it's like, I want my hips to be more mobile, more flexible, more range of motion. It would be like, I guess, like the less biased, less triggery word, more range of motion. Anyways, so usually what you do for that would be to force range of motion, which is whether it's gentle or intense, you do something like stretching to gain more range of motion. This is something that Charlie and I do not agree with. And in fact, we think that the more that you are able to stimulate and challenge the muscles, whether that's intense or light, every time I say challenge, I always think that people think it's intense. So I just wanted to say that you challenge and stimulate the muscles in the range that you can do, like your body already has, that is one of the best ways to teach your body to do more. It invites your body to open up range of motion, open up, I guess we could say, flexibility.
Yeah, this is a really kind of cornerstone principle for us here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, is kind of respecting the function and the integrity of the neuromuscular system from everything that we're doing from an exercise perspective, and making sure that we continue to build the integrity of the neuromuscular system. And what does that look like? That means getting muscles to be able to contract better, to be able to contract more, and to be able to tolerate greater amounts of stress and still be able to contract well and still be able to contract a lot. Like those I feel like are the big things that we're really trying to do with exercise and with muscle activation techniques, is make sure that muscles can contract in the first place, then kind of build the amount that they're able to contract, and then also build their tolerance to kind of external stresses so they can keep contracting even, when somebody's body is going through a physical stress that it's maybe unaccustomed to or is inappropriate for them.
I think this is one of the biggest contrary things that we do with the fitness industry, because again, increasing range of motion by doing more range of motion is also kind of touted, like the way that we're raised, is like something that's really good. And one of the things that we fail to realize is that it can be, I don't even want to say good, but it can be tolerated by a certain population. And that certain population, it usually works for. And that's like the way that we were raised, meaning like when we're young athletes, we do all this stretching and stuff, like with sports and stuff. We have to remember, who is this being applied to? Like young athletes, like people that can handle a lot of stuff. And as Charlie brought up with like the neuromuscular piece, is like, just like you can handle a lot of stuff. Like think when you're little, you can eat whatever you want and you feel fine the next day. I eat a bag of Doritos and I feel like poop for the next 2 days. It's like you got this recovery time. So young people also have like a really resilient neuromuscular system, meaning they can handle a lot of stress. And so stretching and forcing range of motion is really highly tolerated by that group. And unfortunately, in the fitness world, the way that we learn how to work out when we're older, like when we're actually like, hey, my health kind of depends on this. I think, what do I remember from sports? And that's one of them. We kind of do this historical continuity idea where it's like, if I used to do it then, I'm going to do it now. And some of us slowly relearn, but that's actually one of the biggest reasons why our business exists, is because the way people are trying to work out now isn't working for them. So they try a whole bunch of stuff and nothing works. And then they come see us at Muscle Activation Schaumburg, and it works out because we do a lot of stuff that they haven't currently done. And one of the biggest things we do is we respect that range of motion, whether that is with MAT or whether that is with how they're weight training. And so often when we start doing this, we start seeing that people don't have like that reoccurring tightness stuff that most people label as normal, and they don't get quite as achy after their workouts.
So these are probably 3 of the bigger things that, from an opinion standpoint, that we hold here at Muscle Activation Schaumburg that are pretty unpopular in the fitness industry as a whole. Not, for the entire fitness industry, because I think a lot of our colleagues also share similar opinions to us, but from the general fitness industry, these fly in the face of what is typically regarded to be true in the fitness industry. So if this kind of piques your interest and be like, oh, well, what else do you believe that's different than the typical fitness industry or typical exercise professional? Stay tuned, subscribe to the Exercise is Health podcast, because every single week we're talking about different things that are often uncommon in the exercise industry, or that are not popular in the exercise industry, or just are flat out wrong in the exercise industry. And we're kind of breaking them down and telling you how to go about course correcting those, as well as, how to use exercise to build the health and function of your body. So if you haven't already, definitely subscribe to this podcast and come back week after week, because those are exactly the kinds of conversations that we have.
Yeah, and if you love it so much, you don't even have to wait for next week. You can go to like our previous ones.
Oh, for sure. Yes, definitely.
You know how often clients will come in with questions and we refer them to a podcast episode, or a lot of our colleagues will use some of our podcast episodes, because we know this stuff is like confusing. As I said, you guys are getting like information about fitness from like every avenue that you guys go to. I mean, I haven't watched the news in probably over a year, but last time I watched it, for some reason, the news anchor had like appropriate and knowledgeable information and tips to share about fitness. And I was like, what? How does that person know like about fitness? Because I don't think they're trained to do that. So anyways, I know you guys are getting it from all avenues. We'd love for you to be one of our audience members, and we always do a Q&A session. So if you are new, please feel free to send us questions to our email, which is info@matschaumburg.com.
And if you also enjoyed this kind of conversation, we invite you to check out the Exercise for Life Method group on Facebook. Every Thursday at noon, we do live broadcasts where we have similar discussions that we do on our podcast in a live video streamed format. And we also do some Q&A with that too. So be sure to check that out on Facebook, Exercise for Life Method group. Now, if you're looking for a way to kind of incorporate some of the exercise principles that we talked about today in order to build your health and function, then you need to check out the MAS at-home workout program. Again, this is a video-guided 75-day program that is designed to build the health and function of your body through exercise that can be done from the convenience of your home using minimal equipment in under 20 minutes. So if that sounds of interest to you, head to homeworkout.matschaumburg.com and download your copy today. And while you're online, if you wouldn't mind, head on over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review. It helps people find this information when they're looking for podcasts on exercise and when they're looking for podcasts on health. So if you found value in this conversation today, let us know by leaving us that 5-star rating and review. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We always appreciate it. Have a fantastic week. We'll talk with you all next week.